What's the fastest you've seen a crowd go from excited to horrified? An animal show at Busch Gardens. The camels started fucking. The climax of the last Twilight movie is a fight scene that goes on for 10 minutes. Vampires are ripping each other's heads off. Giant wolves are throwing them around like chew toys. And one by one each of Bella's friends and family die around her. You can actually hear people in the audience react as each named character dies. And none of this happened in the book, which was criticized for its lack of climax. As each minute goes on, it feels like they improved the film's story to give it a real sense of danger and excitement and payoff to the series. So shit's intense. And right as they kill the big bad evil guy, the camera fades to black, pulls out, and reveals that all of it was a vision. The last 10 minutes didn't happen. It was someone seeing a future that might happen. No one died. Just a bunch of vampires and wolves standing around staring at each other in silence. Then they all walk away, alive and well. The crowd groans. A girl up front shouts, "Are you shitting me?" Everyone sits back in their seat. No one cares about what's happening on screen anymore. Some people are laughing because someone hit the undo button on the most exciting 10 minutes of the movie. Never have I seen a theater turn on a film so quickly and so hard. Pink Floyd often would have giant floating pigs released during the concert. You know, inflatable balloons. This would happen like halfway through the show. Well, people are smoking tons of pot, drinking, doing God knows what other drugs, so by the time the pig is released it's basically like God descending from the heavens. People were losing their shit at the pig. Well, it got caught in one of the wires and caught on fire. You've never seen so many stoners fall to their knees in terror/fear/sorrow over the death of a giant inflatable pig. There is no God anymore. His bacon got fried. I saw this on YouTube somewhere. A bodybuilder was strutting his stuff in front of a crowd, warming them up and everything at an event. They absolutely loved it. Many people had attended just to see him. He was at his peak. Huge muscles and sculpted physique. Absolutely amazing. I don't personally like the bodybuilding look, but you've gotta respect hard work. The crowd was cheering him, and he got so pumped up, so full of energy and emotion that instead of just walking onto the stage he did an impromptu jump flip. He launched himself high into the air and did this impressive flip. The crowd went berserk, but he was a bodybuilder, not a gymnast. He landed on his neck and died instantly, crumpling on the spot. It is one of the most horrific, sudden and unexpected things I've ever seen. Maybe the worst part was not all of the crowd realized immediately. They kept smiling and cheering for their hero for another minute before it sank, in that they had just witnessed him die right in front of them, and they were clapping for a dead man. A friend of mine decided it would be fun to try and see if he could smash a beer glass on his head. Up until then he was just being an enthusiastic drunk and had some positive attention. He then decided the beer glass thing was a good idea and promptly executed it. Head wounds bleed a lot in the first minute. Crowd went for more. You're cute, Fuwaki's gonna die. I sobered up in an instant and got a semi-clean towel for him to stop the bleeding. Thankfully head wounds also stop bleeding pretty quick in most instances. Monday Night Football, November 18th, 1985. Washington Redskins vs. the New York Giants. I was pretty young at the time, so being allowed to stay up late on a weekday was a rare occasion. During one of the plays, Joe Theismann was sacked by Lawrence Taylor and Harry Carson of the Giants. The entire stadium went silent as Theismann would end up suffering a compound fracture of the tibia and fibula. What I remember most vividly is that the broadcast kept replaying it over and over again, and seeing Shin snap at a 90-degree angle. It made me physically nauseous and had to walk out of the room. If I recall correctly, following the injury, broadcasting policies were changed so that constant replays like this would not be shown in the future. I don't know if this counts, but I'm a huge fan of 90s rock. Slipknot, Seether, Mushroom Head, etc. Anyways, I've always wanted to see Marilyn Manson in concert, and he was opening for I think one of the mentioned bands above a few years back. Anyways, he comes on and just looked horrible, kind of slurring, but whatever, I get it. So like 4 songs in he starts singing Beautiful People and mostly everyone seemed into it. Well, maybe BC it's TX, and it was an outdoor venue over 100 degrees, but he just goes, "Fuck it, you'll suck," and walks off stage. Took a few seconds to register with everyone he wasn't joking, and every starts booing and cussing. I was legit excited and it just turned to garbage so quick. The station nightclub fire. Small packed club. Great White was playing with unauthorized pyrotechnics. Suddenly caught the building on fire. Emergency exits were locked, and people jammed the exit door. 100 died. Thankfully didn't see it in person, but there is a YouTube video showing the whole thing. It is a very traumatic watch though, so wouldn't really watch it unless you want it imprinted strong enough in your brain so that you will always look for exits when going into a crowded area for the rest of your life. When working on a kids show, a child goes missing within the first 15 minutes of the show starting. Show had an emergency stop so the parents could plead for the child to make himself known. Nobody was allowed to leave their seats or leave the building. Whole building had to be searched. Everyone assumed the worst, but after half an hour they resumed the show, even though the kid still had not been found. 10 minutes later we got word that the kid had wandered out of the building and was found safe and sound around the corner. To make matters worse, the show was Rapunzel, you know, where the story centers around a kidnapped child. Several years back, and my band opens up for a hardcore punk outfit from Illinois at an all-ages venue, where they have a sci-fi theme to their show. The singer dresses up as a mad scientist and the other 3 members dress up as his evil robots. They also have old television sets plugged in around the stage playing 1950s B horror movies while they play. No one, including the people running the venue, have ever seen these guys play before, but going off of the theme we are expecting something awesome. That is until I'm backstage putting my equipment away and notice them all pounding back shots of tequila. When it's their turn to play, they are so hammered they can't even make it through one verse of a song. The singer ended up drop kicking one of the TVs into the crowd of about 200 people, which caught fire. This caused the sound guy to end their set right there, and they were banned from the venue for life. I've never seen a crowd go from happy to oh shit so fast. Harley Davidson 100th anniversary party. For months they said the headliner of the big weekend-long party was a mystery guest. Everyone assumed it would be someone who appeals to the Harley crowd like the Rolling Stones or Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band, right? So the show starts. Opening act is the Doobie Brothers and the crowd loved it. Next is Tim McGraw and the crowd loved it. Next was Kid Rock and He Just Rocks and the crowd loves it. Then it's time for the mystery guest. It's Elton fucking John. The crowd just poured out of the park. Plenty stayed and enjoyed the show, but tens of thousands of people said fuck this and left. Years ago I was at a company holiday party where they rented a live karaoke band for the event. I looked through their song list to see what they had. I noticed the Misfits' Last Caress on there, which was a song I loved, but seemed so out of place. For those of you that don't know the song, it starts out with, I got something to say, I killed your baby today, and it doesn't matter much to me, as long as it's dead. I thought, man, I kind of want to do that song, but I really shouldn't. But after many drinks later I was drunk enough to not care. I get up on stage and request the song. The band starts going, and I get super into it, just belting the lyrics into the microphone. Now, it wasn't the fucked up lyrics that got to people. I'm not even sure they had any idea what I was singing because they were cheering me on. What shocked them was when I accidentally lifted the microphone too fast to my face and smacked myself on the mouth. My lips started bleeding badly, and I could see people in the crowd go from "Who" to "OMG." A co-worker of mine rushed on stage, pulled me aside, and called me a cab home. I have a fun little memento from that night too, because the next day I still showed up on time, which surprised everyone. Because of that I won this award for being the drunkest at the party and still showing up the next day. Was working as a backstage manager in a medium-sized concert venue. We had quite a famous band with a crazy singer that used weird props. On their rider, a list bands give to venues with their wishes, they demanded we arrange 2 buckets of pig blood. Of course we did not do this. Show was going well, people were having a good time, until the singer took out a steak knife he stole from our restaurant and started slicing his arms open. He was really making deep cuts, and it was horrifying to watch. Blood was everywhere. Most people in the audience were shocked. Some were dry heaving. When the show was over the singer was dripping blood all over the backstage area, smearing it on the walls. I was fairly young and scheduled to work alone that night, so I was way in over my head. I tried to reason with him, but at that point he was very intoxicated, and there was no point talking to him. Our backstage area looked like someone was murdered there. When I tried talking to their stage manager, he shut me up very quickly. He was probably sick of dealing with the new staff complaining about the singer. He did this shit all the time. The band was notorious regarding these kinds of crazy acts. I had to put up with a lot of shit working as a backstage manager. Bands wrecking the backstage rooms, making a mess everywhere, being sexist, being too fucked up to stand on their feet, you name it, but covering the whole stage and backstage with their blood. That was a first. We had to repaint the whole area because there is no point trying to clean the blood smears. Fairly shortly after, I changed careers because I could not deal with that anymore. There was a Darren Brown show called Remote Control. It was all about the effects of mob mentality. The crowd had to decide whether something nice happened or something bad happened to the same person. Each time the thing would be better or worse than the last. Eventually it led to them deciding that he would be kidnapped. They were all watching, live on hidden cameras in a studio, by the way. When the kidnapping was attempted, it showed him evading them, but running into the road and getting hit by a car. The whole crowd gasped, and eventually people asked the filming to stop. The last part was just an actor/stuntman though. Went to see the Pokemon movie with my fellow group home residents as a treat. There were maybe 70 of us there. Most had never been to a movie theater before, so it was a pretty big deal. The house even splurged to get everyone a small soda, candy, and a portion of popcorn. This was literally the best day of most of our lives so far. We get settled in, taking up most of the theater, when the credits started and the lights dimmed. We were so excited. Pokemon, the movie, was about to freaking start. Opening ads start. We are silent the whole time in anticipation. Then the credits never ended, we thought, because this one ad seemed to go on forever. Some kind of a spoof of an alien movie, maybe a play on Star Trek. Credits rolled. Lights turned on. Nobody spoke. Every single face was deflated and so freaking disappointed. Someone screwed up and played Galaxy Quest instead of the brand new at the time Pokemon movie. Nobody talked the whole way back to the house, but as soon as we got there, so many kids lost it. I didn't end up seeing it until like 10 years later, and it blew my mind, haha. I was at a sporting event where someone proposed to their girlfriend in the crowd, and they put it on the Jumbotron. They panned the camera to the woman, with the man's outstretched arm holding a ring. She's beaming as she realizes what's happening, and the crowd roars in a joyful applause. They then pan the camera down to the husband-to-be, who turns to face the camera. I'm sorry, there is no other way to say this. He was very ugly. Over the span of about 5 seconds, the joyful hooting and hollering turns into one gigantic 15,000 person sound. It was agonizing. In my recollection of the event, the UG sound transformed back into good for you, hooting and hollering, but that might just be my memory trying to downplay the cringe factor. St. Patrick's Day 2012. During a soccer game between Tottenham Hotspur and Bolton Wanderers, a player, Fabrice Muamba, collapsed on the pitch due to cardiac arrest. The game was televised, and I was watching it at my local pub. The pub became eerily silent. There was a weird sense of things not being good, and everyone was concerned for a player we barely knew of. Football fans might be loud ruffians, but there's a lot of respect when things go wrong. Fortunately, Fabrice survived and recovered, however he retired on doctors' advice. I was brought to corridor once, and the matador got his leg impaled by the bull while he was trying to get over a fence. The crowd started screaming and booing the bull like it was a foul move. I was like, Mayo, the dude fucking stabbed it. What was it supposed to do? Recite poetry? I've told this before, but here we go. My cousin, a few friends, and I went to the first screening of Endgame. It was a double bill, so we sat in the theater watching both Infinity War and Endgame with a brief intermission. The atmosphere in that movie was like being at a football UK match with the crowd going wild. We get to the end of the film. Thanos snaps an Nothing, the room fell silent. The camera turns to show Iron Man and the stones forming onto his hand. Everyone goes crazy screaming as Iron Man says his line and snaps his fingers. The screen goes white and everyone stands up and holds their breath ready to scream in excitement for whatever is about to happen. During this silence, my cousin, sat next to me, has a realization and a thought pops into his head, only in his sleep. Deprived excitement, it's not in his head, it comes out his mouth and very loudly he says, "Oh god, he's dead, isn't he?" The suspense in the room died in an instant, and I heard someone at the back of the theater say, "Shit, he's right, isn't he?" The woman 2 seats to my left started sobbing, and then slowly people start sitting down around the theater. Went to a burlesque show in Florida. This particular group were very well known for a lot of gross out humor and politically charged jokes. I should note this was during the 2016 election cycle. So, the show went on just fine and everyone is laughing and having a good time. Until they make a joke about candidate Donald Trump. Elements of the crowd got ugly, people started throwing abuse, people started threatening violence. One guy started screaming about Bill Clinton being a racist who must die. A few people had to be removed by security. I've never seen a crowd turn so fast on a performer. It was pretty scary for a few minutes. They powered through, and most of the offended parties stormed out. I talked to the leader of the band and asked if it was normal. He said nope, usually a handful of people get offended, but that's what the show is advertised for. A shame they are no longer touring really. So, to recap. Naked women dancing around, okay. Naked fat guy with dildo in his mouth singing a song about being cute, that's okay. Naked guy stomping on babies with comedic amount of blood, that's okay. Jokes about religion, okay. Jokes about Trump, triggered. I was at a Warped Tour in Chicago, circa 2015. Sleeping with Sirens was playing, one of my childhood favorites. The whole crowd was going hard until the set was cut 20 minutes short by some girl who passed out in the middle of the crowd. They cancelled the rest of the set, and I know it may sound bad, but a lot of people were saying negative stuff about the person who couldn't keep themselves hydrated. The next year Sleeping with Sirens set was cut short because of an incoming thunderstorm. I think they were doomed to play in Chicago, lol.